you want to be a samurai? Well, you've come to the right place. First, you're going to need a traditional samurai katana longsword. No, not this one. This one's mine. Next, you're going to need a medium-sized sword called a wakizashi. If for no other reason than it's fun to say wakizashi. And third, based on the assumption that a warrior can never have too many dangerous, pointed, deadly items, there's a samurai knife called a tanto. Well, today I'm going to show you an antique tanto that was disguised to appear to be a wakizashi. Now, why would a tanto want to appear to be a wakizashi, and what possible use is there for a wakizashi to look like a tanto? Sound interesting? Well, it's interesting, it's unique, and it's historical, and that's what we do here. This is Sword Talk. Well, welcome. We've got a great show for you today. Really, really interesting historical and unique background. However you found us, wherever you are, thank you for spending part of your day with us here at Sword Talk. As we keep doing this, we learn, number one, about how to score more points, recognition points with YouTube. One of those ways is for you to subscribe, press like, comments, all that stuff. Please do that. First thing you'll probably notice, if you're not a new listener, but we've been 10 weeks now that we've gone public, and we're making changes as we go along, as we learn about how things work here on YouTube and how to make a more professional production for those of you who have signed on and have been very, very encouraging. And by the way, thank you for it. Yeah, we got a new backdrop, and actually, it's the one before the final one, but it's the first show with the new backdrop. First thing you'll notice is we have a new logo. Still the same kneeling samurai. That's me, actually. But now there's a beautiful mauve Enzo, which is a Buddhist spiritual circle that has a whole history and a whole spiritual meaning of its own. Go look that up, E-N-S-O, Enzo. And my graphics people, I did a great job on that. It's to mimic the swoosh of the sword. Anyway, it's new here for Sword Talk. It's new on our website. I'm supposed to mention the website, American-Samurai.com. Don't forget the dash, American-Samurai. The dash is important. And over my right shoulder, the kanji letters, which stand for Zen sword, which is the descriptive practice type of iaido that I do. Excuse me. We work unscripted here if you're new, so you have to put up with that. Okay, today's show. We're talking about tantos. And the first thing about a tanto is it's determined by the size of the blade. So this is a tanto, which we're not going to discuss today. Very interesting tanto that we'll devote a whole new chapter to in the future, because this is a wedding tanto. Princess carried this at her wedding. But that's the size of a tanto. Technically, to be a tanto, the blade and everything is measured from here by the collar, the top of the collar, to the tip of the blade has to be under 12 inches. This is a 9-inch blade, and it's a typical size. And it's the size that fits the saya, the scabbard. The blade we have today, and God, is that pretty? Look at that. Is different because the blade is 9 inches, but the saya is longer. Now, why would they do that? Why would they disguise a knife to look like a larger wakizashi? Well, before we discuss that, we got to keep some mystery going here. Let's talk about the beautiful kashire. Isn't that pretty? Okay, this is gold and copper over grooved walnut. It's really exquisite. The Saggio cord is a dual color. Also like that a lot. This obviously is the cord that attaches to the belt, the obi of the samurai. I said it was a tanto, but if you've been watching the show, or if you come to these shows with any kind of background on samurai, which only few of our listeners, I'm told, are. We have a lot of new people to samurai. This is the size of the mid-sized sword, what's called a wakizashi. All right, let me see this blade. The blade is nice and long and elegant. It's a 9-inch blade. It's extremely, I want to say sexy, because that really is. It's just a really gorgeous shape. It has a dual hamon. It starts out Madari, which is we've come to learn, is more of a wave shape, and then it goes to that straight sugaha. But the important thing about this blade is back in the 15th century, mid-15th century, that's how old this blade is, 1469 is when this was forged. The important thing is that the person who forged it had an excellent reputation. But the big thing on his resume was that he was the student of another smith called Saimonji, who was an excellent smith with an even bigger reputation, who trained under the legend of all time, Masamune. Now, the last episode, we had a quote, which nice comments I've received on it. It's a quote that we've adopted at American-Samurai.com. If you check my website, it's, there is nothing between heaven and earth that a man need fear who carries at his side this magnificent blade. That was the saying of the greatest swordsmith in the history of samurai, Masamune, 13th century, that I just copied. we adopted his. Anyway, he's acknowledged to be the best of all time. That's it. It's not even a real argument anymore. Everyone still dreams of finding a Masamune blade in relatives' attic or something in Japan. That's the big dream. Everyone's always looking for the lost Masamune. Well, Masamune had many disciples, but many people that he trained, but he had 10 swordsmiths that were called the 10 disciples. And one of them was the legendary swordsmith Saimonji. So famous was he that, by the way, if I haven't mentioned this book before, this is a great reference book. One of the best. His sword is featured right on the cover. So they could take any sword in history and they picked his. And that's featured here. This particular book, we're going to have a whole episode on reference books that I recommend. But this book is technically out of print. Go on eBay, find a used copy. It's great. It's unique in many ways, including the fact that it has triple and quadruple fold-outs. It has actual sizes of swords that are in samurai and art museums all over the world. The sword that's on the cover is one of the 10 disciples of Masamune, and that guy is the master of Oishi-Sa, who did this particular sword. Koshire is great. The design on it is, again, a lot of these swords have Zen Buddhist meanings. This one too. It's plant tendrils, which mean long, healthy life. And it's just beautifully designed. A lot of times the wakizashis or even the tantos have the traditional diamond pattern of silk over ray skin, the skin of a manta ray. This one doesn't. This has a nice solid handle with all these gold burnishings on it. It's just really pretty, and was obviously, by its appearance, the sword of a prominent samurai, prominent daimyo, maybe later on in its 600 years, a merchant, member of the court. But one of the things you notice here is that the blade doesn't match the saya. Now, what's going on here? Well, this is why you tune into the show, to hear this stuff, right? Okay, so a wakizashi normally is on the left side of the samurai. All samurai are right-handed. You may have heard me say that before. That's the traditional saying. Many students come to a dojo here and in Japan and all over the world, and will tell their sensei, but I'm left-handed, and the sensei always says, all samurai are right-handed. And that's the phrase, all samurai are right-handed. So sooner or later, the student gets the message, you're just going to have to be right-handed if you're going to learn samurai. The katana, the long sword, the wakizashi, the short sword, both carried by the samurai. Only the samurai can carry the katana, but wakizashi, merchants, members of the court, other people carried. Both carried on the left. A tanto, a smaller tanto, is carried on the right. Now the tanto in battle had a distinct advantage. It had a shorter blade. So when you're battling somebody with your long katana, and you get in that classic sword movie position where both of the swords clash and the hero and the villain always, glance at each other and so on. If you've ever watched the Errol Flynn movies or the Zorro movies, it's always there. It's a classic of all sword movies, including Star Wars. They have to get to that point where they clash. So they're like that. Well, the samurai could reach into his right and pull out the short sword and work in close. Well, if you're carrying your short sword on your left side, you're engaging in a bit of a deception. You see, a wakizashi with this length can't be used like that because the blade is too long. So when you're locked in that combat position, your opponent knows that it's not as much of a danger to pull your wakizashi out. It takes too long. It's awkward. So he doesn't fear you. So if he sees you, if he sizes up you, I told you we're unrehearsed here. If he sizes you up as an opponent and sees you're carrying a wakizashi, well, he doesn't expect you to come out with the short blade. Surprise. Deadly surprise. Your last surprise. So that is one reason why you have a deception in packaging like this. Then there's another one, okay? And again, this is something when I run it by my professional samurai people, they go, Tom, only you would think of that. All right, well, here's what it is. Remember, since 1469, when this blade was done, it's gone through many, many owners and served many purposes. When the samurai were at war, this was a battle weapon. But later on, as I've told you, the Japanese didn't wear any jewelry. So they wore their status and their wealth and their vanity on their swords. This was kind of like their Rolex watch or gold chains. There's something special about this, and that is the position of the belt hook here, okay? The location of it was very suspicious to me because this should be further down here. Well, what does it mean that it's down here? Well, the difference is if it's in its normal position, it sits lower and you can't see as much of the gold. The owner of this at some time, maybe originally, or maybe in its later incarnation, somebody who possessed it maybe in the 18th, 17th, or even 16th century when the samurai were at peace and was carrying this around to say, look at me, I'm better than you are. actually designed this so the sword would sit a little bit higher than it normally would. See, it normally sits along like that. Doesn't show as much gold, does it? This sits a little higher. Definitely, to me, suggestive of a vanity thing. So that's one of the reasons I like this enough to purchase it. We've talked about this before. I always look for something that's unique, that I can say, I just never seen that before, or I rarely see that, or this is interesting. So this particular sword, I think, has it all. It's attractive. The blade is really nice. The smith is important. The lineage, A+. The overall look of it, and it's got that unique backstory. So I bought it, and now it's available. And it should it be your sword, I suggest it as a desk piece. They look really nice on a desk or on a shelf, on a bookcase, as opposed to hiding it away in the closet or the vault somewhere. Again, another interesting piece. Join us next time on Sword Talk. I have a very, very special episode 17 coming for you. Don't miss it. Mark your calendar. In the meantime, thanks for watching us. Check out the website. Don't forget to subscribe, press likes, leave comments, do all that stuff so that YouTube likes me and I get more people watching. Recommend the show to your friends and send comments on how you think we can improve the show. I'm not sensitive. Any comments you want. Thanks. Thanks for watching Sword Talk. See you next time.